very much for welcoming me on a beautiful spring day to come and talk to you all and talk about our new track surface. And probably quite apt that it's raining, because one of the reasons why we have gone down this project is to try and fight away some of the perils of what rain can do to us, particularly our athletes, which are horses and jockeys. And those horses, one must consider they are quite large. They're in their racing weight, and they vary, and I'm going to do an average here. You're looking at an animal that's around about 550 kilograms, so half a tonne. And when they're at full gallop, so on the home straight, when they're running for the finish line, they're exceeding 70 kilometres an hour, and they have a hoof print that potentially, I've got little Donald Trump hands, so sorry. Their hoof is very similar to this. So it's not only half a tonne that's been put into the ground, it's inertia, so that half tonne becomes far greater because of movement and time and distance. So you need a surface that's, number one, not so affected by rain, two, and most importantly, that is actually better for our athlete, the horse, which it is, because what it does do, if a horse came and zoomed across here, you'd see it go very fast. But then on our surface, because of the technology that it has underneath the grass, it actually makes what we call striding out. So a horse running here would say stride out to here. On our surface, it'll stride out like this. What that means is that the horse is healthy and happy, right? So when they exert themselves, probably the best explanation would be, if you're running on concrete, you shorten up your stride because it naturally hurts all your metacarpal bones and also your shins. But then you get invited, and I come from a little country school, and you go to Porritt Stadium in Hamilton, and it's suddenly got this lovely spongy surface that you run on, and you feel like you're floating and bouncing. That's very, very much a similar process to what we're doing. This here is exactly what is underneath the grass at Ellerslie. So we used to be a volcanic clay base. Volcanic clay base is good and bad, but what you have is it acts like a sponge in winter, so it attracts water, doesn't release it, so it becomes very spongy, which is not conducive to having very large animals run. And then in the summertime, turns into concrete. So a lot of artificial irrigation to get the surface right. So what we did, this here is reflective of, to that sand level there, 500 mils, so a reasonable amount. So when you consider a racetrack is at Ellerslie, we're 30 metres point to point, so from inside rail to outside rail, and we're just over 1800 in circumference. So it's times that by 500, you can imagine there's quite a bit of material that needed to come out. And wonderfully, we have a massive amount of basalt rock there as well. And if anyone's come across good Auckland basalt rock, it is extremely hard to remove. So we removed all the dirt. We then put in the gravel. So two parts to that. Number one, consolidated base. So that was very similar to making a road, exactly what you do for making a road. All this, by the way, every delivery of sand and gravel had to get, we had a scientist on site that checked every truckload of gravel and sand, so we had to get the sieve size right. What I mean by sieve size is, it's simply as that, they put it in a sieve, anything that can go through, tick, anything that can't go through is not good. And out of thousands and thousands of truck deliveries, we only had 2 trucks that were rejected on site. So then, and the reason for that is to allow the water to flow through. So that's the primary objective of this surface, is when the water hits here, subsoil's sitting here. Sorry, I should have, in the drainage lab, pardon me. So just the good old node flow sits in there. We want the water to go from there to our pond as fast as we possibly can. So consolidated, firmed up base down here, then a loose base of the drainage into a lower sand level, and then reflex matrix. So what that is they're about 10 centimetres by 6 centimetres, basically little squares of recycled plastic sits in here. That's the only organic material that we have in here is peat moss. That sits in here. There's no other organic material in this track. So no dirt, no medium for the grass to grow. All it is good South Island peat moss, and then naturally fertiliser, which we put in a liquid. So that sits in there, and that was part of my point when I said a horse hits the ground and it's good, so it's helping to remove the concussion. Then what it does is once a horse's hoof removes, if you had a form of plastic, you can screw it up and let it go, it jumps back to its form. It then pushes the grass layer back up. So it helps with the repairing of the track, and it can handle a lot more robust work, for want of a better word, than what a normal turf track or indeed a sports field can hold. It allows us to, with confidence, how a race meeting is done is on a Monday say if we're racing this Saturday, you would have what is called nominations day. So there's particular requirements for the horse to be able to nominate for those races. They nominate on a Monday. Then on a Wednesday, it's called acceptances. That's when the trainer will look and make sure the horse is still fit, healthy, ready to progress to Saturday. They accept and then they race on Saturday. What happened with our old track, we have a scale of 1 or 0 to 10, 0 being rock hard, 10 being extremely wet. We want to have a surface that's safe for horse and jockey around that good 4, good 5. On a Monday, old track, you nominated, it was a 4, which is perfect. We get rain Tuesday, Wednesday, Monday, Tuesday. On Wednesday when they're accepting, it might have gone to a 5. You get another 10 mils, 15 mils, and then on Saturday it could be a heavy 10, which doesn't affect horses. So then they, what's called late scratch, they don't turn up to race because it's not certain. With this track, you nominate on a Monday, it's at a 4. We have 20, 30, 40, 100 mils of rain on Tuesday. It's still a good 4 on the Wednesday. We have another 100 mils and it's a good 4/5 on Saturday. So it's removing one of the variables of surface requirements for the horse, which is of benefit to the horse. The other day, I'm sure you are interested in news and environment. Hong Kong, so there's probably the greatest racing jurisdiction in the world, had 575 mils of rain over a 7-day period, so half a metre of water, and they raced on the Sunday. Town was pretty much flooded, but the racecourse survived. And I'll explain a bit more as we go through what we've done to not put any impact on residents with A, capturing water, and B, also taking a lot of water. Ellerslie had terrible problems, still does, with water. We're actually helping out. So we're not reliant on any of our excess water when our ponds or our dams are full, putting it back into the system. So we are removing a huge amount of water from the greater Ellerslie region, which is obviously a benefit. So that just shows you a little bit better. That's the reflex mesh that I was talking about. So there's thousands and thousands of these little things in there. There's your subsoil, so they collect our water. Our collector drains, so those are good 45 diameter drains underground, and then they feed into 800 diameter pipes. And when, if we go back to Tuesday afternoon here, we had a downpour, we got 10 mils of rain. Those 800 diameter pipes were what we call fully charged. So the water coming in, if you stood at the hospital end of the racecourse and jumped into the collector drain, it would have taken you less than a second to get to our pond, and our pond's pretty much a kilometre away. So it's when it's fully charged, it's absolutely blasting water into our system at the other end. Here's our beautiful track before I went into a state of depression and started crying. So it was lovely. I love, I make no bones, I love horses, I love racing, I've been around animals all my life. But one of the greatest things I love at Ellerslie is it's privately owned land, owned by the club, but we allow our local community to walk, to walk there. We don't at the minute because we're trying to grow grass, because we've just done a project. But we love the fact that our community accepts the racecourse as their own, and I think that's important. It's greater than 56 hectares in the Ellerslie Remuera catchment. It's a green space. We're very proud of it. It's been in the community for hundreds of years, and it's something that largest ratepayer in East Auckland to the council, even though the council you wouldn't know that we are their largest ratepayer in some of our dealings with them, but that's I won't get anywhere near political, Jill.
Oh, go on now, we enjoy it. You're in good company.
So this was us on just after Auckland Cup Week in March of 2021. This here was what we did is we sprayed it to naturally take the grass level off, because we weren't reusing or didn't want any of this grass to start impacting the new grass, and then we scalped it. So again, scalping it is just removing all that organic material, so that when the diggers come in, and you can see down here where they're then starting to absolutely slaughter the track here. Some of you will be able to see the amount of basalt. So we grew a new mountain in Ellerslie. We've got Mount Hobson off over to our west. We created Mount Ellerslie in the middle of the racecourse there, and probably I'm the only one in Auckland that was, I wouldn't say delighted, but thankful for the Auckland anniversary floods, because we had an issue to get rid of all the basalt. Who would have known that the council required thousands and thousands of tonnes of basalt to replenish seawalls and walls and help communities that have been severely affected. So we gifted all that rock to them. We could have sold that and made a lot of money, but part of our role is to be engaged with our communities, and that was one of the ways that we helped out. So yeah, going from extremely happy little Paul to depressed little Paul, wondering whether my career was flashing before my eyes. This then just shows you the level that we took down. So this is coming into the home straight, so around about 600 metres. All the old material that we took out, where we could repurpose it for other projects, not ours. We gifted it again to communities. A lot of us at Ellerslie, we have a very diverse workforce. We have a lot of Pacifica people, so from Fiji, Tonga, Samoa. So a lot of this we put on a container and filled containers full of the old subsoil drainage, and that went up to communities in Tonga that have been affected by the volcanic eruptions. And this here shows you, so track proper here, this is where all our new collector drains went. We had a lot of things. We had geotech experts all over the land. We thought we'd had everything, but Ross, you'd understand, we found pipes that weren't meant to be there. We found things that we didn't expect to find, so it was quite an interesting, even because when we were doing the geotech, naturally we raced right up, finished racing on a Saturday and started digging on the Sunday. We couldn't do very invasive geotech investigations on the track proper because that would have interfered and interrupted with racing. Back to, sorry, I should just jump back to, going the wrong way there, sorry. Just back to this one. So we took out the 500 right around. We put back in 15,000 tonne of gravel, 35,000 tonne of sand, and the peat moss we bought up from the South Island, 7,500 cubic metres of peat moss and 13,000 cubic metres of the mesh, which is, you can see it mixed in there. So the little black specks or brown specks, that's the peat moss. So that's the finished product after it's been mixed. And you can see there's the sand base, and then this sits on top. And there's finished product there, and this is what it looks like before they do what they call the final scalping. So that's the technology that sits in there, and that's two purposes. Number one, allows the grass to spring back, but number two, it binds the roots. Because if you go back to that first shot I showed where there's no organic material, we need an anchor for those roots to go into. So once the roots, you can imagine a little bit of grass growing here, and as it works its way down, and our goal is to get it, the roots of our grass will go down 525 mils, so they will be massively strong. Two reasons. Number one, it builds strength, so when you've got a big huge animal smashing down, it can handle it. And then number two, in times of drought, the roots will be right down into that volcanic clay, which is full of nutrients, and they'll love that, so they'll keep going down because there's no water stopping on the way. They just keep growing, trying to find water. The company that we use, so we used a Australian company because they have the technologies, they're the only ones that do it, called StrathAyr. This little machine doesn't look much, but we call it Little Kingy because that's where all the sand goes in. Then the bales of peat moss and the bales of StrathAyr sit in here, and then it's all computerized to release the right amount to go in. So goes in what we call the naked sand there, and then pops out. That's the finished product there, and you can see we've got the reflex mesh sitting there, and then we've got all the peat moss that sits there. So that gets fed in. People far smarter than I have worked up the programs that then it just spits out the end result. But wonderful people, they lived on site. When we started this, we'd only just come out of lockdowns, and the government was still all red light, orange light, green light, so we didn't know. So we're on standing, which is, we'll call that the 1,600 metre shooting start. There were two properties there we purchased, and we got dispensation from the government that if we did go into a lockdown, we could continue, because one person would be in the cab of the truck, no one else was in there, so we had them on site, so they live with us right up until the end of August, so pretty much 18 odd months, and that was just an insurance factor in case people decided that we needed to be shut down, and it was a large project, $53 million project, so it wasn't a small project by any stretch. We wanted to minimise as much outside influences as we could, but we just couldn't influence the weather, and we've had the two wettest summers on record at Ellerslie. So up until the end of May, at Ellerslie, our race course, we've had our annual rainfall in 5 months. So that caused major headaches. But I'm smiling now, so you soon forget those headaches, don't you? I mentioned about our pond. So part of our reason for being, sustainability is a big focus of ours, and I don't mean sustainability just in a happy voting for the Greens type sense. I'm talking about sustainability that encompasses the environment, which is important to all of us, and our kids, our grandkids, and great-grandkids, and our futures, or not our futures, I'll be dead, but the grandkids will be there. But it's also about that longevity for being. So to me, sustainability is about having good business practices, being good within your local communities, no matter what sector of organisations you work for. We all have an ability and should do good for people in any way we can. I think it's absolutely important. And a lot of people talk and look at us and say we're a sin stock if we're on the stock market, if I may use such a descriptor. We're evil. Yes, look, some people are affected negatively and very badly by our industry and the demons that it can bring to people. But on the flip side, we have many people, and it doesn't matter, alcohol's the same, cigarettes are the same. Any industry has its badness. It's how you mitigate that and how you work with the community, which I think is the key piece. And that's where my bit of sustainability comes. But this sustainability was major for the impact of what it potentially could have on the community. So what we hold in this dam now, our old dam, which used to be on the other side of the racetrack, so over here, held 3-4 million litres. This dam now holds 36 million litres. So it's 150 metres in length, 35 metres wide, and at its deepest point down here, 13 metres deep. You can see there's some guys in there. So they are standing down here, and they're not even at the bottom. There's probably another metre to go there, and there's the top, which we're looking at here. And that captures water from Peach Parade. So Peach Parade runs down here. That captures water from Remuera Road. That captures water from Green Lane East, Road to Mahana, and from Derby Downs as well. So it is providing the community with an ability to remove that water, hold that water on site. All our drains, you can see the big drains, these are inlet valves. So when we first open up the valves to let the water come in, all our pipes are charged. So when our pond is full at 36 million litres, we can store another 1.5 million litres underground. So what we do is they positively flood our pipes. And then we release, we've got the ability to release into the Auckland Council stormwater network, but we can choose when we do that. So we can hold so much water in here, we can wait till the stormwater has done its job, and then we can trickle release. We've got massive soak holes on site as well, which is part of refilling the aquifers all below the ground. We can do that when we need as well. So when everyone else is having issues with stormwater, this will release a lot of that stormwater pressure in that greater Ellerslie area, because we're removing, holding and capturing a lot of that water on site. But the primary reason for it is selfish. We're using that to water our track. So any bit of water that goes on the track, our previous track, we probably collected 30% of the water that fell onto the track. We're now collecting 99% of the water, and it comes back in here. So water we are putting on, albeit 50% of what we put on comes back and ends up back in here. This is now being implanted, so this is all material that can break down. The only non-breakdown material is this liner here, but this is all being planted out with natives, so creating environment. We've got lots of lots of skinks and ducks and pukekos and bird life around our racecourse, so they've got a happy little spot to live. You can see here where the first bit of seeding was done, so it stops there. Our seeding's been extremely good. Naturally, all the farmers, because we have a massive farming community in the racing industry, they thought we were all dreaming about trying to plant grass during the middle of winter, but we did it. And again, that was not by, oh, good luck, here we go. We'd worked out, we knew exactly what our temperatures were. For those of you that have got an interest in science and the environment, sand is naturally warmer, it attracts sun. So classic test, you walk on the beach in the summertime on the little feet that haven't been out of shoes for a while, and you're like, oh, because the sun's been attracted, or the sand attracts the sun. Then at night time with that reflex mesh, it releases the heat that it's been storing during the day. So even though when we were getting down to 7-8 degrees at Ellerslie, the track was sitting around that 13-14 degrees. And that's an amazing difference for a little seed that's trying to grow. So we succeeded there. So me turning back happy again, seeing here, because the grass is growing really well. This is another picture just to show you how much devastation we made. This is our track here. Wouldn't think it. This is a roadway. That's the new fencing that we put in. Again, safe for horses. Horses see this. So horses can't see much colour, but they understand what white is. And white to them is no go. But if they touch this, it's made to bend and more allow them to get a fright, so it pushes them back. So whenever if a horse is coming up to you and it brushed into you, first thing it's going to do is veer away. So that will force them to stay. And to be brutally honest, if a horse is zooming around here at Ellerslie, it shouldn't be racing at Ellerslie because it's naughty horse if it's out there. Not good for our punting. This is an eagle eye view of the naked track. So here you can see down here, this is the mole sheep. These are the two houses I was talking about that we purchased. This is with just the gravel. That's with the sand gravel. That's again just with the first layer of sand. That is the completed product before it gets flattened. At the same time, we undertook a big project where we've created a new entranceway. Always an entrance. There you go, there's brilliant. Our little old pond there, and that's the new pond there. And getting built, not lined there, but still gone from there. So a new entranceway through here. You can see these two little black dots here. So you go under the track here, and then you pop up here, come down. Good for our golf warehouse, which leases this land off us. This is all going to go back into grass area, green area. Our new car park sits in here, and here's the main fence here with the wider precinct goes right down to here. So that just gives you a really good snapshot of how large our footprint is. For those that are not aware, this is Green Lane East here, going to the big Green Lane roundabout, and then we have Ladies Mile, which goes up here along here, and this is Derby Downs, Road Mahana, which wraps around there as well, and then Remuera Road sits up here. So it is a large.
Notice they've chopped the trees down on Ladies Mile.
Yes.
That's the land that you sold.
Correct. So, yep, very good point. So this area here, from here right back up here, is has been sold to Fletcher's Residential. The trees that they're touching are actual identified weeds. They've just been let to grow. So no one panic, because that would be very contradictory if then we chopped all the trees. So we had 14 Pahutakawa. Some of them are even older than Ross. We're probably planted by Ross. No, I say that respectfully.
Nothing's old.
Sorry. Ross is a dear friend of ours. So it was lovely to see him. But that's just to give you an example. When Ross was in nappies when some of these Pahutakawa, out of all 14, we managed to keep 12 of them. So 2 of them were actually old and were a potential hazard. But yes, the rest of the trees have been done now before roosting season happens. So we're trying to protect as much as we can of the natives that we've got. Well, we have bark too, but this will be a beautiful development, and that's going to have 353 residences when it's completed. That's 6.4 hectares. But again, they're dealing with traffic in an appropriate way. It's going to make a more beautiful experience for these people that live on the other side of Ladies Mile, so they will get probably 35, 40, 50 minutes more of sunlight and the sun setting in the west because of some of those trees that have been falling away. And you standing up to tell me to shut up. I thought it would have been Jill, but that's okay.
No. See
I
ya.
thought Jill was so that just shows you, so 11 kilometres of drainage, as mentioned, 15 tonne of gravel, 35 tonne of sand, and that's me.
So who are the suppliers for gravel and sand?
Seminoffs from Whangarei. So,
from
yeah, that caused all, so when we had the bloody, excuse my French, sorry, when we had the dam flooding, Auckland Anniversary, the Brenduans are closed. So a truck trip of sand return was taking just over an hour and a half. Then they had to bypass them. We were having to employ truck drivers to be waiting at Ellerslie because when the truck arrived, the driver was out of his hours and they had to swap over, and then he or she then took the truck back. So it was taking about close to 7 hours to truck and trailer of sand from Wilcox to us when it should only take an hour 35.
Given the scale of your detention ponds and
Yes.
and the amount of local water that you're taking in, do you get a rates exemption on that amount of land?
No.
Astonishing.
Council were very painful to deal with, not unexpected, but you would think so. And when particularly, and I'm not saying just because of the size of our rates bill, but our rates bill is bloody ginormous. And then the fact that, to your point, we are actually taking council fed water, you'd expect it, but hey, we can't control that, so we just marched on, and
Right.
it's our civic duty. There you go, that was
So unfortunately,
that was
there's
being
more of that, don't
politically
we?
hostile.
More local
The
detention.
council did put a pipe through from the racecourse through to Waitarua to drain that area, didn't they? But the probably not for.
That's on the hillside. So they put it so pretty much, that area we're talking about with those poo cars, they put it in there.
Oh,
And they
So it's too high for you.
this is I'll make it as short as I possibly. This is probably links into the piece around what I was saying to Jill about it being difficult. We now can put water into them because we can force it back in, but that just about kiboshed the whole project, the whole selling of the land to Fletchers, everything. Just that Waitarua piping, because they weren't allowing us to put any water into it. And then, so we brought up to Jill's point, the amount of water that we're taking out of the system and the stormwater, and then they're like, oh yeah, okay. Stable. Yes.
Well, clearly probably all your strategy is to reinvigorate the industry with good infrastructure. How are you going with the buildings and things like that, which even polite people would say are pretty junky?
Yeah, no, absolutely, and we make no bones about that. Number one, the focus is track, stakes, and then facilities. So beyond my time, those two stands will disappear and become one, purpose-built for today's society versus giant behemoths that are past their use by date. So, look, we are making, in short, doing as much as we can to make them attractive, lipstick on a pig, whilst we build that fund to enable us to demolish and build. So absolutely noted. But again, when you look at the other large stadia in Auckland in particular, massive support from council, we get nothing. So that will be a cost borne by us, and you'd be looking at minimum probably 50 to 75 million to create something worthy of attracting people in a nice, welcoming environment. So absolutely agree, don't hide from the fact, but track first states to give that sustainability, and then someone else can do the project of the build. I've had enough of building.
Yeah, well, it's
right off into the sunset.
yeah, I mean, a lot of stuff's been done before you, and a lot of stuff will get done after you, so it's a
100%.
big project.
100%.
But, you know, I think there's a lot of potential for venues like that in a growing city to be such a draw as a green space, as a leisure space, not just horse racing.
Could not agree more.
You see it, you know, travelling overseas. I mean, you would have seen that's just what they do. I mean, open them up to, you know, high quality dining and all sorts of things.
No, could not agree more. You've got your finger on the pulse. It's good to see.
So the nutrients you're saying drain through and they'll go to the pond. Is there a detectable amount of nutrients in the pond?
No, because so we've we've spent massive amount of money on all our machinery. So the fertiliser machine, so it's done a complete. It's been driving around by itself for the last week, taking. It knows every millimetre of the track. So when a normal sprayer goes out, drives along, and you just turn it on and keep on driving, this only puts in the required fertiliser. So camera sits in the front, it's driving over and it's going, oh, that bit of grass is needing a bit of fertiliser. So we've got 38 nozzles on thing. One of those nozzles will go. So it drives around, and any of you could come in and we just push go, and then you sit there for the rest of the day and you just drives
like
around and around. And at the same time, it can shoot. What's the word I want? I call it Roundup. We don't use Roundup anymore, but it shoots Roundup at the same time, so it can. So it's quite advanced. So yes, whilst we are fertilising, the amount of fertiliser that we're putting in that goes away is almost negligible, because it can't force its way through. There will be a certain element, but then we've got filtration systems and everything in the pond that deals, and all the appropriate aerators to make sure that the water quality is good for wildlife and whatever. So.
Well, taken up most of the gold plant.
Yeah, that's the goal, is whatever fertiliser you're putting on, you want the plant to be taking it. And if you're getting fertiliser to the pond, something's going wrong, as in you're putting too much in.
Pretty amazing grass. What is it?
Yes, yeah, I've learned everything you need to know about grass. So our old mixture was pretty much kikuyu, which was good in the summer, good in the winter. It was a very strong plant, but we settled on 3 ryegrass mix based on Flemington in Australia. Their temperatures go cold, hot, we sit there. So we knew that the grass could grow in those difficult temperatures either side, which we don't get. And then they developed it, so it's fungal resistant, it's resistant to brown beetle, it's resistant to pretty much everything. But yeah, very expensive grass seed too. So if you want to steal anything from Ellerslie, come and get a bucket, nick a bucket of that, chuck it in at home, and you have the best grass lawn in the community. But yeah, really expensive. To give you an example, I don't know, but say if it was, call it $100 a tonne that we used to spend on grass seed, we're $3,500 a tonne. It's lesser volume, but I'm just using that as it's massively expensive. Big budget, yeah.
Okay, sorry, we'll probably have to draw that to a close at this point. Thank you. Had Bill organised a thank you?
Yeah, yeah, thanks for coming along, Paul. You've really enjoyed your in-depth thing. We know a lot more about growing grass now, and yeah, we've been at Ellerslie, so we've been watching the excavations going on, wondering what's going on.
Well, hopefully we didn't annoy you too much.
Not at all. Nah.
No.
We annoyed some neighbours, but that's unfortunately, you know, it's one of those perils of not everyone's going to be happy, so.
A lot more questions, but
No, well look, if anyone's ever passing, pop into Ellerslie. I'm always up for taking people for a zip around and check them on our new fertiliser machine. It's good fun.
just
Myself on it.
yeah.